Lindsay Rebold, and I've been in real estate for almost 7 years. The best part of my job is meeting new people and seeing a bunch of cool houses. I always tell clients that I am like a guide. They are making the choices and the decisions, and I'm just there to help them through the process. There are 12 steps, in my opinion, to buying your first home. First is to find an agent. Having your own agent gives you someone working for you and your best interest. Step 2 is to get pre-approved. In this process, it's important to shop for a mortgage and find which lender works best with you and which loan works best for you. Step 3 is to make a list. This list should have all your absolute needs and not just things you prefer. They need to be reasonable, and you need to narrow down your priorities. Step 4 is to look at houses. In this process, it's important to be open to different kinds of houses. Maybe you'll like something that is not what you think you'll like. For instance, I've had clients that have said they only want new houses and fall in love with a 1900s house. Step 5 is to put in an offer. This is when you talk to your real estate agent and decide what offer is best and what needs to be in the offer to win the seller over. Step 6 is to negotiate. There can be counters and some negotiating between seller and buyer, and this is where trusting your real estate agent is an important part. Step 7 is, once your offer is accepted, is to put in earnest money. This is typically 1%, but I've seen it higher and lower depending on the offer. And earnest money goes to the title company and stays there until the close of escrow. That money can be given back to you if it is requested in inspection period or from preliminary title report. If not, if you just bail at the last minute, that money goes to the seller. It's kind of what holds the house. Step 8 is the title report. So this is the preliminary title report. This occurs technically after, sometimes at the end of the process. It kind of depends, but in there you want to look at if there's any liens, if there's any weird easements. It kind of shows you what's on the report, on the title. Step 9 is home inspection. Depending on the property, this can also include well and septic. The professional inspection technically can be waived, but I always tell clients to get it because it will show you what is wrong in the house and provide you negotiating time. Step 10 is repairs, and then the appraisal. The repairs is when your real estate agent can help advise you on things that are smart to ask for and things that are a little extreme. Sometimes people ask for money instead, so like a chunk of money to do the repairs later. It kind of depends on what the repairs are and if they'll be lender required. And your real estate agent should be able to tell you based on your loan what is required. The appraisal is done from the bank. In the appraisal, they come out, they look at it, and then they appraise it at what the value is and if there needs to be repairs. Step 11 is to sign the documents. A lot of people have a misunderstanding that signing is when you close and you get the keys. That is not the case. You sign sometimes days before, sometimes a week before, it depends. When you sign, you will sign the documents and then you'll leave it to escrow to finish up the process. And step 12 is the closing. This is when you get keys and you get to see the house as yours. So COVID was an interesting time in real estate. I would say that the market skyrocketed at first. People wanted bigger spaces. People wanted, they could move to the suburbs further out in the country because they could work virtually. So we saw a huge uptick in that. And since then, with interest rates rising, people have been slowing in the buying process. I would tell a buyer now that the market ebbs and flows. You will have interest high, you will have interest low. Typically, as the housing prices go down, your interest goes up. So ideally, if you buy now, you could refinance it in a few years with a lower interest rate. And so it shouldn't be for too long. It's very important to choose your own agent. I can tell you a personal example. Before I was in real estate, I bought my first house and I just called the agent that was on the sign, and it was terrible. The agent worked for the sellers. We got a terrible deal, really. And looking back, and it was definitely, it's hard for an agent to be on both sides. So finding your own agent first that you trust and feel comfortable with is important. I love watching my kids play soccer. My boys are both in pretty intense soccer leagues, so that is most of my weekends. And I like watching my daughter do track as well. She just started, and I like reading books. Typically, it's about 5 years. I would advise people to stay at least 2. If you move before 2 years, you have a chance of having capital gains or you have to pay extra taxes. The rule of thumb is to assume 3 to 5% annual home value appreciation. Ideally, you should stay put long enough to offset transaction costs, including your seller's agent's commission, closing costs, expenses to prep your home for sale, closing costs for your next home. 5 years typically is how long it takes to have your home appreciate enough in value to cover those costs. People have a misunderstanding. They do not need 20% down. So I find a lot of buyers will be like, I'm just going to rent because I need that large down payment. There are programs that are 0% down and even 3.5% down. So there are programs out there to help people buy sooner than they think they can.
When people look at renting or buying, what would you say is the biggest difference between the two?
Yes, renting versus owning. So renting, you build your landlord's wealth. Your monthly payment is likely to increase. You may be limited in what you can customize in your home, and you will likely pay rent, fees, and a security deposit. When you own, you build your own wealth. Your monthly payment is locked in. You have the freedom to customize your living space, and you will likely owe a down payment and closing costs.
What has the biggest impact been on home buyers and sellers since the pandemic?
I would say it's been kind of a roller coaster for both home buyers and home sellers because the market was hot. People were selling their houses and making tons, and now they're not. So sellers are not as realistic, and so I think it's impacting them just understanding what they need to list their house for to actually sell it in 2023. For home buyers, I think just the sticker shock of high prices and high interest rate. If you're thinking about buying or selling a house, I would encourage you to contact an agent near you to help you through the process.